Now entering Armbar Audio.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Armbar Audio. Next to me is my trusted companion,
John Kearns. What's up, everybody? What's your name, though?
I didn't say Tim Farley.
No.
I'm Tim Farley. But anyway, welcome to the show. And today we have another guest for you, the incomparable Pollo Del Mar.
Pollo Del Mar. Let's get right into it. All right, so we are here. We are here with our guest on this day, Paul Pratt, also known as Notorious PDM, the Glamazon, Pollo Del Mar.
How are y'all? How are you? Well, glad to be here with you.
We're
Glad
very
you're here.
happy to have you.
I just want to start this off because it's such a common mistake. Pollo, like a Y. The two L's.
I was wondering
chicken.
that.
Yeah, it's super common. If you're Italian, you would say Pollo, but if you're Hispanic or Latino, you would say Pollo.
See, I was wondering
I'm
that,
neither.
but I didn't know if your name would be Chicken Del Mar. I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, well, if you translate the whole thing, oh shit, you guys, I'm getting blown up right now by text at this random late ass hour from Jamie Senegal, who I'm going to be managing at NWA Empower. So we can definitely just leave the blinging in.
Jump into that.
Yeah,
but
just jump
my
into
whole
that.
name translates to mean chicken of the sea.
Oh, that's
So you're
interesting.
a
I love that.
So yeah, and I just wanted to put it out there. And there's no shame in mispronouncing it. If you heard the way Mickey James pronounced it the first time that we spoke, it was even worse. So
Oh wow.
Country bumpkin.
Mickey can call me any damn thing she wants as long as she calls me, and she's been calling me a lot lately. So I'm very happy.
That's so fucking awesome. I'm happy for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you mentioned, Jamie Senegal was hitting you up, and you are going to be her valet, I assume, at NWA Empower. Yeah, manager, valet.
Full-on
however
manager.
you want to look at it. Awesome. So tell us about that, because before it was announced, you were campaigning for this, weren't you?
Hell yes, I was campaigning for it. I absolutely was campaigning for it. I think that when you know what you want in life, you can either allow that to come to you, sit around and wait. Maybe it comes to you, maybe it doesn't, or you can go for what you want. And oh my God, every person that I work with in pro wrestling is at this very moment. Shut up, you dirty bastards! Let me talk. So yeah, I think that you either sit around and wait for opportunities to come to you, or you identify what those opportunities are. You identify what it is you want to accomplish in this world, and you go for it. And so for me, I sat on a lot of dreams for a really long time. We'll say that. And the fact became very clear to me that a closed mouth does not get fed. So I started putting out there into the world, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to see myself go. This is what I want to be doing in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years. And it sounds trite probably to say, but I've been very blessed that in the last less than 6 months of my life, more things in a positive nature have happened for me within the world of professional wrestling than will happen for some entertainers in a lifetime and in an entire career. And that is a gift and a blessing, and I don't take it for granted, but I don't think that those opportunities would have come knocking if I didn't plant the seed.
Right. And I love that too, because a lot of people, talk about manifestation and stuff like that, and putting your ideas out into the universe, and the universe will bring it back. And there is the law of attraction is real and all that stuff, but you also have to put your boots on, and you have to walk toward it. You can't just sit there, because anybody who ever had success in anything, whether it's a small, tiny thing or a huge thing, will tell you that they had to do something. Um,
Absolutely true. And I'm actually keep talking because I'm looking up something that I tweeted this morning or retweeted for somebody this morning that talks to that very thing. Keep talking.
so you touched upon in the last 6 months, a lot of things have happened to you that wouldn't happen to others in a lifetime. Now, I know one of those is you did an article with Renee,
I
uh,
did.
and I know that you did an article with PWI, and you were published. What
Or
was that?
was.
What was that article about exactly?
So my article for Pro Wrestling Illustrated, which is legitimately the culmination of a lifelong dream. That's a dream that has been decades in the making. And it came to fruition on the October 2021 issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. The article encapsulates the feud that we saw between Ricochet and Mustafa Ali on the WWE main event series. And it was such an incredible match series.
Absolutely.
And it was two stars who have been underutilized woefully on the main roster of WWE, having this tremendous breakthrough moment, which unfortunately took place on a program that is the least viewed in the entire WWE universe. So, for me, it was a scenario of having the opportunity to really dive in and watch some fantastic professional wrestling between these two, watch an incredible story be told that these men would never have gotten that kind of airtime or any of that on any of the main roster type of programming, and get to write about it. And, I firmly believe that while for me, it's a dream come true to write for Pro Wrestling Illustrated, I have yet to meet a professional wrestler of any age or generation whose ultimate goal was not to be featured in Pro Wrestling Illustrated. So,
Right.
Mustafa and Ricochet have had probably ample opportunities to be in that publication. Mine, I hope, was something special for them because it really talks about what incredible talents both of them are.
Now, you've been a journalist for a very long time, and
I certainly have.
You started in the Bay Area, and you worked for what is it? Was it Glamazon? Was it
No,
Glamazon?
I'm sure that you're talking about Gloss Magazine.
Yeah.
So I don't want to tell exactly how old I am, but you can look it up. I'm in my late 40s, and
Holy shit!
Yes.
No,
and
I mean like in a good way, like
right. But I agree because again, I'm a very fortunate person. I meet other people who are my age, and I can't relate to where they're at physically, but my career as a journalist started at such a young age. Again, this goes back to that idea that I talked about when even from being a kid, I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I came home, to put it in perspective for you, I came home from third grade, 8 years old, told my mom that I wanted to be a journalist when I grew up. My mom, who is incredibly supportive to this day, got me a used typewriter. And I started a school newspaper at 8 years old.
That's fantastic.
We printed out on Xerox machines, and I sold to students in my school. And then
I believe by the time Mike Tenay started, his career started like that as well.
It's a scenario where I think when you know what you want to do and you're passionate about it, it's something that has to be fulfilled. And, it's weird to think of an 8-year-old, doing that, or, and it just progressed from there. By the time I was in high school, I was writing for a New York Times affiliate newspaper, as well as local publications throughout my hometown area in Florida. And then when I went to college, it just snowballed from there. I've consistently been involved in print media specifically, and I have a degree in broadcast media. So all of these things came together in this wonderful kind of an amalgamation of skills, opportunities, and talent. And I was editor-in-chief of Gloss Magazine for a number of years here in San Francisco, one of the largest LGBTQ publications in the state of California. And I've had the chance to write for publications as far-ranging as Us Weekly, the supermarket tabloid, to obviously Pro Wrestling Illustrated and variety of publications in between.
That's so awesome. And you were talking about knowing at a young age. When I was young, I wrote comics, and then it turned into little novels, novellas, if you will. And then in high school, I was writing for the paper. I took journalism classes. You know, throughout my life, it's all the creativity always came out somehow like that with words. And here I am doing this. So that's where it is now. So I can relate to that. Also, you talked about Gloss Magazine. You were also a cover girl, weren't you?
Yeah, of course I was. You know, I was a cover girl before I was actually editor-in-chief of that magazine. And I ended up on the cover of that particular magazine 3 different times. And I will tell you, I never liked a single one of those photos. But, you know, the reality was that it was each time that I was on the cover of the magazine, there's something very surreal to live in a community. San Francisco is a large city, we all know that, but has a very much a small town feel to it, because within the larger city there are neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods, this is a walking city. People walk and they're out in the streets, and for the most part. And so for me to find myself, you know, on the cover of a publication like that, which in many of the neighborhoods was in every single, it was available everywhere. You know, it was my first experience of feeling like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm on the verge of like making it. You know, maybe is this what it feels to like break through to that other side? And I remember, you know, for the people that are around me, like I surround myself I surround myself predominantly with dogs. Obviously, that's who I predominantly surround myself with. But most of the people in my personal life are other creatives, you know, and other people who are very active in our community. And so for me, it's nothing to, you know, see my friends on the front page of the newspaper or on television, or and many of them are already in the media. So, you know, to hear them on their radio show or see their column in the paper. But it's one of those things where when those things begin to happen, it's when other people comment on that, you know, like people are like, oh my God, because it doesn't occur to you that it's not sort of like a normal thing for most people. You know, my mom said to me, Paul, you know, yes, I get it. Like, this is kind of normal to you, but this is not normal. Like, my nephew is like, I love my nephew to pieces, but he's an unabashed fan also. You know what I mean? Because to him, like, oh my God, my uncle's on magazines and, you know, on TV or whatever. So it's a very interesting experience. And I think that in many ways it started being on the cover of Gloss.
That's so great to hear that you have a very supportive family.
Yeah.
My family is insanely supportive. You know, my niece, my niece is my oldest of the 3 children my sister has, and she came and lived with me here, and she lived basically in my drag room because I only have a 1-bedroom place. So she lived in the drag room, and we had her set up with a bed and everything in there and like her own little space, but she still woke up surrounded by wigs and, like, you know, styrofoam heads staring at her, and, you know, bedazzlement everywhere. And that was, you know, I don't know, maybe it didn't register to her that that's not how most teenage girls, like, you know, wake up necessarily.
Right.
And in many ways, I think that having a niece that is wonderful and supportive might be a little more expected than having 2 young nephews. My oldest one just turned 20 back in February, and the youngest one is about to turn 19, like, in a matter of days. And they've always grown up very aware of who I am, what I do, because I've been doing drag the majority of their lives. And they've, you know, I remember in those really formative years, like in high school and stuff, where a lot of kids would be potentially ashamed or embarrassed or like, oh my God, you know, my nephew's going on different things like on the internet, like on YouTube videos or whatever, that had me in them and being like, oh my God, that's my uncle, you know? And that is one of the things I am most proud of that my family has done, is that my family has normalized who I am, because it is normal. It's just another, you know, way of performing and being, living my life. They've normalized it enough that these two young boys will ideally take their understanding and pass it forward. And that's a real rewarding thought.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. I love that stuff. So, so what can we get into here? We
can get into everything. There's a million things. I've got
really
wrestlers
really
texting me out my ass here. I've got, and by the way, some of this stuff, I'm not going to lie to you guys, since we're just like shooting the shit here. How I talked about that thing being on the cover of a magazine being surreal. Let me assure you that some of the shit that's happening in my life at this very moment, day by day, legitimately blows my mind. Whether it's like earlier today, I was doing an Instagram live and Frankie Monet jumped in and started talking to me. And I fucking lost my shit.
That's awesome.
Or, you know, or the fact that like low key, I don't like the listeners can hear this, obviously. I've been since the announcement for NWA Empower came out. I have been exchanging messages with people I've been literal fans of, a fan of for like 10 years. And all of a sudden it's like,
it's crazy, isn't it? Like we had the same thing. We had the same thing when we started getting interviews. Like when we had Effie on, it was like we had been talking to Brett Lauderdale for a while about doing the sponsorships that we do for GCW, and we've done that a couple of times where our logo is actually on their ring canvas for a couple shows. And we were talking, and he was talking about, well, I can probably get you somebody for the show if you want to hype up the collective, is what we were hyping up at that time.
Yeah, and what this segment was, why you should be watching.
So
and
we decided
this time
we
we were
should be
doing
watching
GCW. And usually we get someone who's more on our level, who's more knowledgeable about that promotion than we are.
Like we did one for Dragon Gate where we had the person that runs the Open the Fangate website, or we did Stardom where we had our friend Michael, who's like a pro wrestler and Joshi genius. So for GCW, Brett Lauderdale got Effie to be on our show.
Yeah, we almost shit our pants.
Yeah.
Like, we were so fucking happy because since we started watching GCW, like, Effie is...
We're all in on Daddy.
Number one. Yeah. And then, like, he was sitting at the dinner table. He told me one day, and Jacob Fatu called him, and, like, his cousin saw his name on the phone and was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like we're sitting at freaking dinner and Jacob Fatu just calls me on the phone. And I'm freaking out and my cousin's freaking out and she's like, are you serious? I'm like, are you serious? So I was like, I have to answer. He's hard to get a hold of. So I answered the phone.
Jacob Fatu, I'm answering. Shit. Yeah.
Wow, right.
You know, I have
on top of everything, the man, he's not technically savvy like we are, so it's hard to get. So it's hard to get him. It's hard. So
I think that he's absolutely techie savvy. He's just like, meh, whatever. He's a mover and a shaker, dude. Don't let him play the I'm grandma and don't know what the hell's going on.
Oh no, he didn't try to play anything. This was our assessment. Like,
based on interactions.
Like, I don't know if this guy knows how to work his phone. Like, does his kid show him how? Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
so
he's had too much barbecue and, like, you know what I'm saying? He's on a whole different wavelength than this shit. You know what I mean? Like, just book me.
I have this really, like, to me, it's really funny, Jacob Fatu story. So I did a show a couple months back called Full Queer. And Jacob and his brother came as surprises. Like, they came to be on the show with us as surprises. And so got to meet him a little bit there. And fast forward about, I guess, maybe a month ago, I was at a West Coast Pro show and Jacob was on the show. And so there's of course, there's the curtain that blocks off what's going on backstage from what's going on in front of the stage. And Jacob kept going between the curtain and this like small area, and I was standing a good distance from that damn curtain, but Jacob's so effing wide. Right. He would go behind the curtain, and 3 different times he nearly knocked me down because his ass, like, or shoulder or some part of him, like, slammed into me. I was like, dude, I'm like 2 feet from this curtain. What is going on? So, but you know, the Fatu family is so, you know, being from the Bay Area, they're so heavily involved on West Coast pro wrestling, and their influence is so far reaching. It was incredible. I remember doing that show at Full Queer and seeing them there, and I was like, they introduced them to me, and it never dawned on me until like 3 hours later. I'm like, wait a minute, that is the Jacob Fatu.
Yeah,
you know, like
exactly.
Like, you know, but he was so chill, and
he's very chill.
He and his brother were awesome.
We did one interview with him, and then we were going to do another interview, and we did it, but we were fucked up during it, like me, him, and Jacob, and it will never see the light of day. It was unusable. It was unusable. but it was the best 3 hours we've spent in a long time.
Holy shit!
Yeah, we were just fucking rambling about everything, dude.
So going off of the GCW thing, the first time we saw you, of course, was when you hosted at the Collective 2021 Effie's Big Gay Brunch.
Yes.
So, and I instantly fell in love with you with how you were reading members of the audience and some of the wrestlers. I love that. So what was that like?
First of all, you talk about your love for Effie, and you know, you have a love for Effie having worked with him as a guest on your podcast. You have a love for Effie as a fan, and I have love for Effie as an entertainer and as a friend. I have love for Effie as somebody who legitimately, I'm getting emotional thinking about it, who changed my life. Effie changed my life, and I've known Effie for a fairly long time. I've hosted many podcasts of my own over the years, and a number of years back, Effie came on as a guest, and so we connected then and stayed in touch. And then a couple years passed, and we both became part of an upcoming documentary film that's called Out in the Ring. We're hopeful that'll hit, you know, theaters maybe in the beginning of 2022. It's been years in the making, it feels like. And we, you know, through that, we stayed in touch. And then ultimately, I connected with Effie and Zicky Dice, Zicky was on one of the very first wrestling shows I ever did. In a different lifetime, it felt like, for both of us, because Zicky was far from the incredible. He was only beginning to show signs of that incredible entertainer that we know today. And so I went to Zicky's house, and Effie and I and Zicky we did a drag thing on their Twitch channel. And that night is when Zicky basically twisted Effie's arm to ask me to host Big Gay Brunch 2021 on April 10th of this year. And the reason I say that Effie changed my life is, first of all, he took a chance on me, because I don't think he had ever necessarily seen me do what I do in the world of professional wrestling. And the fact that he still signed me on to do that, and the fact that he not only it wasn't like bringing me in for a one-off, like trot me out to the ring and like send me on my way type of thing. In a lot of ways, I was the glue, and Effie would say this, I was the glue that held that show together, because I was the one who was in the ring the majority of the time. I was in the ring longer than some of the wrestlers.
Yeah. Right.
And it takes a tremendous amount of trust and implicit respect for somebody like Effie to turn his child, that event is his, you know, it's his baby. It's, you know, it's growing and evolving and turning into something that's like beginning to mature, but it's his brainchild. And for him to turn that over to me, it was mind blowing. And then the kind of response that I received in the wake of that was something beyond anything I could have imagined. And you can trace everything that's good that's going on in my life right now in the world of professional wrestling right back to some kind of exposure from that event, that singular event. And so what that tells me is 2 things. Number one, Effie, you're fucking brilliant. number one. The second thing it tells me is that, you know, no matter how big or small the opportunity may appear when it's presented to you, you have to maximize that. Because if I had gone out there and half-assed it or phoned it in or you know, whatever the case may have been, nothing that's come to me since then might be on my plate right now, just because so many people said, oh my God, I saw you at Big Gay Brunch. I loved it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's why we're here now. So
Right.
So I wanted to ask you, you know, you knew what you wanted to do when you were in third grade. What passion came first, drag or wrestling? And when did they like, how did that happen? Like, did you see drag at a certain time and want to do it? Or were you more like, you know, putting on makeup yourself and then you discovered other people are doing this?
Oh, hell no. You know, oddly enough, like, I would be lying if I said that I never got in my mom's makeup. My mom had, I remember when I was a kid, like, my mom, it was so long ago, but she had like this round thing. It was either Mary Kay or Avon, and it was like a makeup carrying thing, but it was round and pink. And she had all these like random lipsticks and bullshit in there. And I remember one time, she never really went in it. And I would get in there and mess around. And this is a very young age. And I remember one time she opened it up and it was a catastrophe. And she was like, what in the hell happened here? And I was just like, you know, silent crickets. But so other than that, you know, I never aspired to do drag. I never did. I think I've always loved drag. I'd never had the inclination to participate, and I attribute that to my own internalized homophobia. You know, I saw that, and there was a variety of things, but where I first lived and when I came out, which was in Cleveland, Ohio, in the Midwest, the predominant number of drag performers that I knew in that area were actually transgender women. And as a result of, you know, societal issues and pressures and things, most of those individuals only, you know, their only real option to earn a living for themselves was, you know, as entertainers, like in nightclubs and bars and things like that. And then some unsavory things on the side. But so where I came from initially, there were very few male identifying performers in the drag world. So then I moved to San Francisco, and here drag had a very different aesthetic. It was like much more punk rock, much more gender queer, non-conforming type of thing. And you know, I appreciated that. It was an acquired taste, but I grew to appreciate that. And then after a number of years here and living and being part of the community, I did drag for the very first time as a fundraising thing. And that's how that all started. Like, the drag started as a fundraising thing, legitimately within 6 months became my career. So it was unexpected, unplanned. The love for wrestling came, you know, very, very young. I would say it was, by the time I realized that I knew that I wanted to be a journalist, I was already in love with wrestling. And as I explained today on a video that we shot for the NWA, I cannot believe that just came out of my mouth. Like, it's a fact. I mean, it's a fact, but I can't believe it. You know, I was filming for the NWA race for the Chase earlier today, and they asked a similar question. And I told them that, you know, my story is one, I think that a lot of members of the LGBTQ community could relate to, in terms of the fact that my family struggled to find things and ways they could connect with me, especially the men in my family. It was obvious very clearly that I was a different type of little boy. And my dad and grandfather, my grandfather didn't struggle as much, but my dad certainly struggled to connect with me. And at a very young age, I fell in love with wrestling. And, you know, much to his credit, my father and I had a troubled history. We had our ups and downs, and there was long periods of time of severe and significant animosity. And luckily that had all patched itself up by the time he passed away. But the one thing that my father did right in every sense of the word is foster my love for pro wrestling. He took me to countless small bars and venues and like flea markets and wherever they were having pro wrestling. My dad took me to all of it and really allowed me to immerse myself in that world, that world that for me at the time was just fantasy, but he very much supported that. And as a result of that, there are times now when all of this incredible stuff in the world of pro wrestling is happening that I wish that I could share that with him, you know. And I think this might be the first time I've ever actually expressed that, but he passed away right before all of the things relating to my wrestling career started. And
yeah, you're gonna make me cry. So
yeah, it was a situation where, you know, I had started to interview professional wrestlers, and I shared this with my dad. I'm going to tell y'all a story that's both comedic and sad and all these things at the same time. But my dad constantly used the excuse that he didn't want to call me because the long distance cost. He didn't have a cell phone, so he didn't want to pay long distance costs. Okay, whatever, Dad.
Total dad thing.
Old people.
Yeah, and it's also a cop-out dad thing because
right.
he whatever. But I was like, all right, I'm going to fix your ass. So I bought him a cell phone, and I paid for the service, and I paid for that service for 2 years. I got exactly one phone call from that 2 years from him on that cell phone. But one of the reasons that I got him that cell phone is because I wanted to be able to text him photos. You know, like I sent him photos of me with at the opening of Levi Stadium with Hulk Hogan when I was there for a private one-on-one interview with Hulk Hogan. I sent him that, and Jimmy Hart was there, and I interviewed Jimmy Hart that day as well. And I sent him a lot of pictures. Like before my time as a journalist covering wrestling, I was a journalist covering celebrities, and so I would send him pictures like this Cyndi Lauper or whomever.
I wanted to talk.
We did want to talk about that too, yeah.
And I also like friggin' sending pictures of my dogs and my car and all this shit, you know, just. And I never, not one time ever, got a response. And it pissed me off. And I was livid. I was like telling my mom, because they've been divorced for years. I was like, that's it. I'm turning that goddamn phone off. He never responds, nothing. And so he passed away on January 9th. And his birthday was the previous December 10th, as it turned out. So he passed away 1 month almost to the day from his birthday. And on his birthday, I called him to wish him a happy birthday. And I will never forget it. He was like, "You are never going to believe what happened today." And I was like, "What? What happened?" And he's like, "That goddamn cell phone wouldn't stop making noise. And it was driving me batshit. So I went to my friend and asked my friend to shut the noise up. And she told me that it was because I had these text messages from you." And so on his birthday, like 1 month before he passed away, on his birthday, he opened 2 years of text messages.
That's fucking crazy.
With photo after photo after photo of things that I had wanted to share with him. And it was, you know, like what it was worth 2 years of expensive ass iPhone bills, never to get a call, just for that one amazing last birthday gift for him. And he was so overjoyed that day. He was so proud. He was showing all his friends on his birthday all these pictures. "Oh, this is my boy with Hulk Hogan." And so it was very much worth it. And then, you know, he passed away a month later unexpectedly in his sleep, but I have no regrets about any of that. And that was, you know, I was like, oh my God, my dad was a complete idiot. Like I can just imagine him being absolutely furious
You went
You know,
through all the trouble of buying the cell phone, but never told him.
he never knew how to
do
use
it.
the damn thing. And I used to say to him, like, my nephews were like 8 at the time. I'd be like, go to the boys and let them show you how to use this cell phone.
Right.
Oh my god, that is so fantastic! Like,
Such a great story, though.
oh, yeah, I feel blessed just hearing it, man. Like that was really touching.
That's awesome.
So
I don't even know how we go into like
anything else?
random dumbass podcast
Well, you-
shit.
Yeah, well, you guys did.
What
You
the
guys,
fuck?
I'll redirect for you because you did ask. I went off on that fucking tangent, but you asked how, like, which came first, the drag or the wrestling. The wrestling came well before, and what ended up happening though is how the two converged. Is that my journalism career? Basically, everything in my life ended up folding underneath the guise of Pollo Del Mar. So,
Well, yeah.
Paul Pratt is doing all the work. Pollo Del Mar is getting all the acclaim because that's a face that people recognize.
Right.
Along with a name that they've grown to recognize, because that persona had taken on a life of its own. So I was doing all of my journalistic work under that. And at some point I was like, you know what? I'm interviewing all these incredible celebrities. Like, why not like start to like fold in some of my own love for these different types of celebrities, of these professional wrestlers. And so for 7 years at the Huffington Post, I covered pro wrestling, and I was the only person for HuffPost who covered wrestling. And I interviewed some of the biggest names in the world of professional wrestling during that time. And it's really started to build up some kind of credibility for me and a reputation for being knowledgeable as well as well-written and well-published, very widely read. So it gained me a lot of access to that world. And ultimately, a local promoter who had helped me set up one of my celebrity interviews with a wrestler who I'm sad to say was Ryback, invited me, of all people. Ryback opened the fucking door for me in the world of professional wrestling and invited me to be part of their show. And that's how it all started. And I think that once I got the taste, I was like, okay, I can do this. And frankly, in some cases, I'm better than some of the people who do it all the time.
Right. I feel that.
So that sort of leads us into your work with Wrestling Inc., doesn't it?
Yeah,
like, how'd that come
certainly
about?
Can. So Nick Hausman, who is my podcast co-host on Thursdays for the Wrestling Inc. Daily, the Wink Daily, is now the managing editor of Wrestling Inc. But he had previously worked with a different wrestling website, and I had contributed to that website on a few occasions. And when I was at the height of doing my various interviews for the Huffington Post and other places, what I would do is I would record those and interviews and upload them like a podcast, and then I would send snippets of those or written transcripts or little PR pieces, press releases to Nick, and that's how he became aware of me. And then I guess about maybe like last December, Raj Giri, who is the publisher of Wrestling Inc., posted something, I think, on social media that just said, basically, I'm looking for a podcast co-host. And so again, you shoot your shot or you don't. So I shot my shot. I messaged him and was like, hey, I've got a fair amount of talent. I've got a broadcasting degree. I've written for pro wrestling websites before, and I'm loosely involved in the world of pro wrestling here in Northern California. So how about give me a shot? And months passed and I got no response, because I know that Raj and Nick were overwhelmed because they were understaffed and overwhelmed.
Right.
And I didn't take it personally, but eventually it circled back and we scheduled an interview for the site. I was going to be just a regular contributor, and we had a Zoom conference call between the three of us. And I'm telling you, within 2 minutes into that interview, I knew I was not getting that job, because I outright told them, like, that's what you're looking for. I think is not what I want to do. It's not what I envision for myself. There's nothing wrong with what you're looking for somebody to do. Obviously, there's a need for that, but I know myself, and that's not what I'm passionate about. What I'm passionate about is something different. And I think at some point down the road, you are going to agree that I'm more valuable doing that for you than anything else. And if you don't come to that realization, no harm, no foul. So as it turned out, a few weeks later, Nick reached out and said, hey, you know what? We've really been thinking about doing some new things with Wrestling Inc. We would like you to come on and sort of guest host as one of the podcasts to see how you work out. And it snowballed from there. Before I even went on for my first guest hosting, that's in air quotes if you can't see it, air quotes, guest hosting gig, they invited me on as the regular Thursday podcast co-host with Nick. And since then, you know, I've written multiple articles for them, gotten to interview a few high name celebrities with many more to come. I can promise you that. And my relationship with them is outstanding. Nick and Raj have been wonderful to work for. The site is wonderful. And I just have to say, as an individual, Nick Hausman is a really, really genuinely nice person. I'm sure that Raj is too, but I don't have that level of interaction with him. But Nick is an outstanding individual. He stands for a lot of things that I really value and appreciate, and I admire him for that.
It's awesome. A local guy is also involved in Wrestling Inc. His name is Justin LaBar. Have you
Yes.
known him?
I do not know Justin LaBar personally. I know Justin LaBar by reputation. Justin is outstanding, outstanding credentials in the world of professional wrestling as a contributor, a writer, a talking head, if you will, type of a pundit about the world of professional wrestling. Right. Tremendous opinion and perspective on the world of professional wrestling. And I remember actually when I first went on to Wrestling Inc. the previous Thursday, Justin LaBar had been the podcast co-host. And one of the first things out of my mouth was like, how in the hell have you let this website go from having Justin LaBar co-host this podcast to me? You guys are really downgrading, but I'll bust my ass to make sure that I, try to uphold the standard that Justin set before me.
Yeah. And the website that you contributed to, you didn't name it, but I think I know which one you're talking about. And I shot my shot with them, but I didn't hear from them. But that's okay.
Was it the one that I wrote that I was with previously was WrestleZone?
Yeah.
And I contributed to WrestleZone. Bill Pritchard is a wonderful person too. I think that this is one of the things that people respond to. I'm so sorry, y'all. I've got this terrible cough. It's because of the fact I was inhaling all this fucking powder earlier on. And I'm not talking about like drugs. I mean like this cosmetics powder because I was in drag earlier today and I was like, and the next thing I know, I have like a baker's cough. But, I think one of the things that people the pieces of feedback I hear about myself is that people perceive me as like this, like wildly positive and optimistic and enthusiastic type of person, because I've built these incredible friggin' relationships and have been so like, it's been a gift to me that like people like Bill Pritchard, have like invited me on for Big Gay Brunch to promote Big Gay Brunch on their podcast. And I get to work with Wrestling Inc. and Pro Wrestling Illustrated and be tangentially involved with things like Game Changer Wrestling and Hood Slam, which here on the West Coast is unbelievable. So cool. The fact that over the next 4 weeks, I have 4 wrestling shows with 4 different wrestling promotions in two different states. And if you go a week beyond that, I'm flying to Chicago for Effie's Big Gay Brunch Chicago. So, I am a very blessed and gifted person in terms of like the wonderful things that the world has brought to me. And I just made these, whether they're deep relationships or superficial relationships, they tend to all be really amazing relationships with incredible people who happen to be movers and shakers. And I somehow get to I feel like I'm Tarzan swinging from vine to vine, like one incredible opportunity to the next because of these people that are surrounding me.
I mean, that's how we felt.
That's how we feel too. Because
like when we first interacted and everything, it was funny because it was over like some wrestling opinions, but you are the type of person, and I'm the type of person that can discuss instead of just writing people off, or I always like, if you don't see eye to eye with me, that's okay, but if we can talk about it, then let's do so, and then I can see more of your side, you can see more of my side, and then through the conversation we were both on the same page. But there's so many people in the world who do not do that, and it's disgusting.
Yeah.
It limits growth, and
It's
it,
certainly frustrating, isn't it? Don't you
Yeah.
think so? It's certainly
Absolutely.
frustrating.
absolutely. So let's talk about wrestling. Some, I guess. Who when you were young, who were the wrestlers that you gravitated towards?
When I was much younger,
personalities.
yeah, for sure, because I have a interestingly enough, like I have many professional wrestlers that I grew up loving and idolizing, but it's no accident that I'm going to NWA Empower on the 28th as a manager. As a child, I legitimately wanted to grow up and be a manager. And specifically a manager of tag teams. So I think that can tell you a lot about me. But when I was a kid, the personalities that I loved, I very much, even though he's gone off the deep end a little bit at times, I was a huge fan of Jim Cornette. I loved what Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express did in the kind of package they were collectively. Jim Cornette, this very flamboyant, outspoken, loudmouth, brash type of character. The team of, depending on what generation of Midnight Express you were looking at, it could have gone from everybody from Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey all the way, through a variety of incarnations with that as well. But the Midnight Express was always my favorite, and in that regard. So I have always been a humongous fan of tag team wrestling. A lot of tag teams would be the answer to who I was attracted to or drawn to. Tremendous fan of Demolition. I was a tremendous fan of the Rockers. I loved that combination. The Hart Foundation, obviously, probably my second favorite tag team of all time was Tully and Arn. Whether they were in the NWA as part of the Four Horsemen or they were part of WWE as the Brainbusters. So those were a lot of the people that I was really drawn to as solo in-ring performers. Ravishing Rick Rude,
Nice.
Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig.
Just had that there.
This is my little collector's corner.
Oh, it's right there. Okay.
Yeah, this is my little corner where I do my little, Twitch streams and stuff like that when I'm doing those.
Right.
I'm doing one tomorrow, but and this corner, if I actually show y'all, so my Divas title up here,
Nice.
But all of these are awards I've won.
Oh wow,
that's weird, right? And then you go to the next shelf. All of these are awards I've won. And then you go to the bottom shelf, and all of these, with the exception of Rick Rude, are awards I've won. And this is, oh my God, whatever. This is fucking put yourself over. This is a resolution in my name written by the California State Assembly. Oh, I'm sorry. That was from the California State Senate. This one is California Legislative Assembly written in my name. Over there is one from the mayor of San Francisco and one from the Board of Supervisors of San Francisco.
That's fucking wild.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh my God. Let's not, because that makes me sound like a total douchebag.
No, it doesn't.
It makes me very uncomfortable. I have them.
Okay.
They're on display. They are wonderful reminders of ways that I've touched my community. You know what I mean? Touched and changed people in my community. And those are the signs of appreciation for things that I've done to help others. But those were all done quite selfishly because the amount of joy I derive from helping and, in the bigger picture of what our community is doing is just amazing.
Speaking of helping, you've done some fun philanthropy and activism. When California was doing the Prop 8 stuff, you were very outspoken, and you helped raise money for the AIDS house planning.
The AIDS Housing Alliance, yes.
Yeah. And you raised money through a wrestling outfit as well, right?
Yes, and yes, and yes. I think that I am very much the community. This community. Let me just like kind of gather my thought on that. The community I live here in San Francisco has paid my bills for 15 years. For over 10 years plus consistently, I was an entertainer who lived not a lavish lifestyle, but a comfortable lifestyle because of the love and financial support of my community. Meaning they loved and appreciated me enough that they paid to get into my events. They put dollar bills in my hand and my bra. They supported me. They gave to me this wonderful opportunity to do what I love on an ongoing basis and to pay my bills doing that. The number of people who are able to pay their bills in a city like San Francisco with astronomical cost of living as an entertainer is super small. My community has given me so much. As a result, I feel a sense of obligation as well as a strong desire to repay that kindness from my community. And as a result of that, I have participated in, all of those awards that I'm, shown. Those are all, almost every single one of them is from some kind of philanthropic endeavor or participation in something of that nature. And yeah, there are times when it feels like everything I've done for philanthropy or for charity or to assist others, it feels very selfish because yes, it may help others, but the way that it makes me feel about myself and my ability to contribute and give back to the community overwhelms that. Like the sense of pride or comfort I take in knowing that people in our community who are marginalized or at risk or less financially capable, that they have the resources available through these nonprofits that I've worked with and contributed to make it another day and to go on living a good, solid life. Like that to me is like the best.
Yeah, to me that doesn't sound like selfishness. That sounds like you have a good heart.
Yeah.
I've found, and John agrees with me, we love giving more than receiving. And that's when we decide to sponsor something like GCW or this or that, it's because we believe in the product and we believe in what they're representing. And we, of course, we went to GCW right away because of Effie's Big Gay Brunch
for the culture, hot girl shit,
all that stuff.
Yeah,
and like it doesn't come off as trite or like disingenuous or anything like that. So, like, I totally understand what you're saying, and like,
I can relate to that as well. I mean, the shirt that I'm wearing right now is a shirt that's tied to a charity that I'm involved with, called Extra Life, which is a gaming charity where we stream games, and while we're streaming games, we're fundraising at the same time. So I think of it, and I explain it as it's like the Jerry Lewis telethon for gaming nerds, because we're playing games and people are like, hey, I'm gonna watch this guy play a game and throw some dollars here, and all the money that Extra Life raises goes to Children's Miracle Network hospitals. And when you sign up for Extra Life, depending on where you live, the money you raise stays local. Like, we're based in Pittsburgh. All the money I raise goes to the UPMC Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh. It doesn't just go into a big cloud and divvied up whatever. It goes to my hospital, which I think is awesome. The best part of the charity. I'll be doing that in November this year because the big thing that Extra Life does is called Extra Life Game Day, which is where everybody or most of the people that participate do that specific day, because that's where you stream games for 24 hours and you just go for that day and race as much as you possibly can.
And I'm gonna be with him for the majority of it
here with
until
me.
Full Gear starts.
Until Full Gear starts. But yeah, so like you're talking about all the charity stuff, and I'm like, I'm sitting here wearing this shirt, like, hell yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
I just, one of the things that I think that I'm not sure where it became instilled in me, but the fact of the matter is that there are there's a handful of ways to get me to do something. Pay me well, make sure that it's something that I specifically want to do, because if it's an event or something that really super interests me, I'll do it for absolutely free, or make it benefit a cause that's near and dear to my heart in some capacity, because I will absolutely donate my time. As I said, I live a really, the life that I've got is something that I would have never dreamed for myself. And it's beyond my wildest dreams in terms of like the things that are given to me and the opportunities and chances. And I think that, there's just something to be said for recognizing when you do have blessings and making sure that people who may not have as many, that they feel like there is hope and that there's something that there's an opportunity for them,
That's
and
how I feel.
For sure.
I think that's, to me, that's just so paramount.
And specifically with the Extra Life thing, I have this guy to thank for my involvement in it, because I'll tell you why. I've never told you this. I'll tell you why.
Uh-oh. Secrets coming out everywhere.
Yeah. I found out about Extra Life through Rooster Teeth. I'm a big Rooster Teeth fan. A lot of people don't know what that is. It's okay if you don't. It's basically a production company that does all their stuff on YouTube and their own website and stuff. But they've made, like, if you've ever heard of like Red versus Blue, Ruby, they've made all that stuff. And they do the Extra Life charity stream every year, and I watched it for the past 5 or 6 years, just being like, this is such a great cause. It's so awesome. I wish I could do this. Boom, we start this podcast. All of a sudden, I have the necessary equipment to do this, to be involved. So this guy picking me to do this podcast with him gave me the ability to learn how to stream and get the technological know-how that I have now, and get the webcam and get the big ass expensive mic and all that. You know what I mean? So like, yeah. So starting this podcast gave me the ability
John,
to be able to do that. I cried
twice already. Let's not make it 3.
No, this is one of my favorite podcasts we've ever done already.
Oh,
I'll tell
absolutely.
You that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you listed those 3 things, so I guess we're number 2, because we did not pay you well, and this is not.
Well, no, like,
this is not a good cause.
Talking about wrestling is good enough reason for me to do most anything.
Right. So, let's see. We talked about the past. We talked about the present.
Well, let's talk about
the future.
Yeah.
You've talked about how people are hitting you up and more things are to come. Now, I know you may not want to drop things here, but now, when NWA Empower was coming out, you were saying how much you loved Mickie James, and you were talking about that.
Who doesn't?
So like, who are people that you haven't interacted with in the wrestling business that you aspire to have one of those relationships with, or what promotions would you want to be involved in, or you know?
Absolutely. Earlier this year, I tweeted out that my goal for the next year was to work with 3 specific promotions. One of those was Hood Slam. Hood Slam, obviously, I've already got a distinct in with. The Dark Sheik who runs Hood Slam.
Yes.
Dark Sheik.
I adore Dark Sheik. I just spent 4 days in Vegas with her. not that long ago at Fearless. I stayed at her home. She is somebody who, if you view her as this enigmatic, spiritualistic persona that you see on social media, bitch, that's exactly who she is. She's an enigma wrapped in mystery, and I live for her because
I'll tell you what,
I love her. I love her.
And speaking of Dark Sheik, the day that this interview is coming out, she's fighting Nick Gage on this night.
She sure as hell is. And I was talking to her earlier today about it. And I sent her a message and I was like, bitch, you are insane. You're crazy.
Are we about to see the Queen of the Deathmatch crowned?
I honestly think that we are about to see the Queen of the Deathmatch crowned. So, Hood Slam was obviously one of the places that I really wanted to work. I wanted to work with NWA. I put that out in the universe, and the universe said yes.
Boom.
Gave me that opportunity. And then the last place that's really on the kind of like the front burner right now that I would really love the opportunity to work with and within is Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Dave Marquez Productions, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is right here based on the West Coast.
Cool stuff going on there.
They do. They tell some phenomenal stories. They have some incredible talent in their roster. And I think that I would fit right in terms of being able to tell those stories, kind of like classic stories with a little bit of a twist. I see a lot of that with the Dave Marquez Productions and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And Dave Marquez and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, the United Wrestling Network, are expanding nationwide. So they've got the Championship Wrestling from Memphis now and the Championship Wrestling from Atlanta coming. They already have got Hollywood in Arizona, and they're considering San Francisco. There's some talk of a Championship Wrestling from San Francisco on the horizon. So I'm just like putting it out there, I live right here. This is in my backyard. I think that nothing says professional wrestling in San Francisco quite like Pollo Del Mar. And so, Dave, if you're listening, I'm available. So call me. But those are the ideas that I have right now. But I think if my experience tells me anything, it's that I sometimes dream a little too small. I sometimes dream a little too small. And what I mean by that is being on NWA Empower on August 28th in St. Louis, is being on that one show enough for me?
No.
The answer is no. The answer is no. I want to be a roster member in the National Wrestling Alliance. I want to be on that roster. I want to appear on NWA Power. I want to be on that broadcast every week. Just minutes before we recorded this, I finished this week's episode of NWA Power. I never missed that show. And I feel strongly like I would, as bizarre as it may seem, because of the traditional slant that product takes, I feel like my character would fit in very well there. And one of the things that I was talking about with Taryn Terrell earlier was that there is nobody like me in the world of professional wrestling.
Not that I know of.
I think that for the National Wrestling Alliance signing Pollo Del Mar, the first drag personality to be a manager in the world of professional wrestling, that's a get, because nobody else has it. Nobody's going to say, oh, you're trying to duplicate this or copy that.
Absolutely.
I'm a one of a kind.
It's 2021, and it's ran by a creative who pretty much dressed in drag for 3 years on the Adore album. You know what I mean? So it's not out of the realm of possibility, and especially now, because right now in the wrestling community, we are seeing a boom with the LGBTQIA plus community. And like, if it wasn't for Effie, I would have never found out about MV Young. And when I look into MV Young, I'm like, oh shit, that motherfucker's from Pittsburgh. Let me hit him up, because I'm going to tell him I'm from Pittsburgh. And guess what? He's going to come on the show and talk about Polyam Woodstock. That's awesome. But like, there's so many names right now. Billy Dixon, fucking
Billy Dixon, Dark Sheik,
Jim Sterling, Edith Surreal.
Surreal.
I mean, it's you. I mean,
Trust me, I can go through the list, and if you want me to, I will. You know, we've got Billy Dixon with the Paris is Bumping. We've got Effie's Big Gay Brunch. We've got Polyam Cult Party with MB Young. We've got Edith Surreal setting the world on fire. And we've got people like the Dark Sheik who's changing the game, because Dark Sheik has been changing the game since before she knew who she was. You know, she was already a trailblazer, and now by realizing what is internal, she is twice the trailblazer. We've got people like AC Mack, who cuts one of the best promos in the business today, and Ashton Starr, who's incredible, you know, in terms of in-ring performances.
Devon Monroe.
Devon Monroe, incredible. Mariah Moreno. I could go on and on because I have.
Who's the guy in the tag team from Beyond? Oh, he caught my eye real quick. Oh, shit.
Is it Perot?
No, I love Perot. Yeah.
How did we not even mention Perot? Perot fucking rules.
Brad Rosser, Perot. You know,
Brad
like
Rosser, yeah.
No. This is an African American male, and he's with a female, and they're like high class, high society.
Sinclair.
No.
I mean, again, I could literally go through my friends. I can go through the Rolodex of my friends. I would be remiss if I I'm not mentioning even Jamie Senegal, and she, you know, Jamie and I are obviously a big thing right now, and I manage a tag team here in Northern California, Money, Power, Respect. Fabuloso, Fabricio, and who is not LGBTQ, and Marco Mania, who is, and we are. I promise you this: watch what we do. We are going to take Northern California by storm. Money, Power, Respect is going to become the hottest property in Northern California, independent professional wrestling in the next 6 months.
And that's
Mark
in
my word.
East Bay Pro Wrestling, UWGA, WZZ, correct?
WWZ, World Wrestling, Wrestling Warzone. They're not in UGWA yet, but I would guarantee that Underground Wrestling Alliance is going to have them soon, because I'm getting more and more involved there.
East Bay Pro
Wrestling. We've got Supreme Pro Wrestling in Sacramento. We've just got a variety of smaller independent organizations here in Northern California. Gold Rush Pro Wrestling. There's a number of places, and I'm promising you, Money, Power, Respect, Fabulosos, Fabricio, and Marco Mania are going to become a premier tag team in the eyes of anyone watching Northern California within the next 6 months. They've had all of the makings to be that special tag team coming out of Northern California. And now that you add me into the mix, both sort of visually as well as what the dynamics of the group are evolving into, things that the sky is the limit for those two, and even higher for us as a trio.
You killed that fucking promo.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well,
that clip I saw at WWZ. Woo!
So I'm not that great with geography. How close are you to Los Angeles?
Los Angeles is a good 5.5, 6 hour drive away.
Well, even so, I think Money, Power, Respect needs to show up at PWG as well, because they just came back.
We are looking to do all of the above. We are. Our hope is, I'll tell you this. So, in the world of professional wrestling, sometimes being a manager is a gimmick, right? It's you're paired up. You go out there, you work together, whatever.
Right. Your Bobby Heenan's, your Jim Cornette's.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to tell you, I'm currently working with 2 different sets of talent. Jamie Senegal with NWA.
Right.
And Marco Mania and Fabulosos Fabricio, the Money, Power, Respect here in Northern California. And if you went to either set of those people and asked them what I bring to the table in terms of being their manager, literally setting up photo shoots with them, setting up interviews for them, getting them bookings, I'm guiding the way that I'm looking at Money, Power, Respect's training videos, and I was like, I want you to do this. I need you to try this move. You need to do this.
You're a literal manager.
Yeah, you're
literally
you're
managing
the way a manager should be.
These individuals, when we separate from one another at some point in time, if that should come to pass, and I think that happens in any relationship, you know, people, like, whether it's time and place or just location, whatever, like, when our relationships have run their course in whatever way that we get to go back into the world separate from one another, each of them are going to have an indelible mark on having been managed by and worked with me. Jamie and I, in terms of the things that we are collaborating on, that we're talking about in terms of our looks, in terms of ring entrances, promos, all of these things for NWA, it's a literal dream come true. And the other person that was texting me was Marco the entire time, because he was in the middle of asking me some shit. And I was like, I gotta go. I got an interview, you know? So it's a very layered experience, this managerial thing, because, you know, earlier today I was doing the stuff that people see in front of the scenes, which is in full drag, cutting a promo for Joe Galley, recording things for Race to the Chase that's going to be coming out in the next few weeks as we lead up to August 28th, the Empower pay-per-view, and NWA 73 the next night, the 29th of August, all in St. Louis. Fingers crossed that I get the request to stay for those 2 days of television tapings, because I really want to be on those.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
But even between now and then, I've got, I'm telling you right now, spoiler alert, very Paul Heyman of me, but this isn't a suggestion. This is a spoiler alert. On the 14th of August in Pacheco, California, Marco Mania, Fabuloso Fabrizio, Money, Power, Respect are going to become the East Bay Pro Wrestling Tag Team titleists. They're going to have 2 sets of championships, and I'm going to lay naked with the title belt strapped over top of me in full drag, very like taking that classic HBK Playgirl thing to all.
I thought you were going to bring up Christina Aguilera on Rolling Stone, but
no, like you may not recall this, but there's a famous photo of HBK on the cover of Playgirl laying with the title over his waist. I'm going to get in full drag and have championship belts just like, you know, hiding my lady lumps. And it's going to be so easy to do, because my boys are bringing home 4 title belts, 2 each, and they're going to lay them at my feet. And that's just the beginning. You know, Jamie and I are going to go and kill it at Empower. And if I have even a modicum of say in the matter, she's going on to NWA 73 to face Camille for the title.
Let's go.
Fucking A. And you know what? That's the perfect way to end this. Paul, Pollo, it has been a blessing to have you on.
It really has.
And every time we do interviews, we go, that was our best interview. That was our best interview. But we've just been blessed with a lot of great people to come here.
And we think about like, oh, the view counts aren't up this week, or oh, this isn't going well, or oh, that tweet didn't do well. But then we think about, we've been at this for just about 3 years.
With no money behind us. And the people that we've gotten to know and get, like Brett Lauderdale, Effie, Brian Pillman Jr., Jacob Fatu, Pollo.
Who are some other people? We've had so
bunch
many.
Of people.
But Shane Taylor was our first one, and we're still tight with him on fucking Twitter. Like,
it's just, yeah, it's great to be a part of something.
We're nobody.
Even if we're nobody, it's great to be a part of something.
You know, I'm going to tell you something that, that I think that I'm hearing is sort of at the heart of what you're saying to me, and it's something that I tell my friends, and that I tell people, like, it relates to that thing that I told you about, like, there's 3 ways to get me to do things. The 4th way is actually to feed me, but we didn't need to go into that. But, you know, like when we came back from what I called Wrestle House, you know, like when we were over all living together at Big Gay Brunch, and we came home from Wrestle House, and we were all kind of missing each other, because we were there for 4 days together, and it was fucking wild and off the hook, and it was like legitimately living an episode of like The Real World, and or like, you know, literally like Wrestle House on Impact Wrestling, where it was like ridiculous. And we all missed each other. And then within like 3 days of getting home or something, Sheik was like, I miss you guys. Like, I want to bring you as many of you as I can to Vegas to do Fearless. How much would it cost me to get you to come? You know? And one of the things I told her is, sis, if you know, like, money, I make money in my day job. I make money in drag. I make money in a lot of things. I don't look to make money in wrestling. I want to, but you know, but I said, money to me doesn't mean shit, because money comes and goes out of my bank account like that. Memories and experiences last, and memories and experiences are what I look for in my life. And you know, I have a job that I don't really always love, but it pays the bills. And that allows me to have memories and experiences with my friends in the wrestling, because it's what I love.
Yes.
So, you know, that's what I think that you're saying. Like, okay, so view count is not this, or we're not making a profit off of this or whatever. Okay, well, that's fine. I'm guessing both of you probably have fucking jobs that pay the bills. And this is something that is a passion project. Right. So you get to have moments and experiences, and in my own experience of doing interviews, every interview always feels, unless it's a shit interview, every interview always feels like the best interview, or like, you know, your favorite or whatever, because in that moment you've connected with somebody new, and it's like every interview is different, you know?
Yeah.
It's
and like the more that we do, the easier it gets. Like,
yeah.
Watch the first episode of this show and then watch this one. It's like
right
when I'm still like the fucking like, oh, should I talk? Is that what I sound like? Oh, fuck me.
Yeah,
where
I have to hit him in the knee underneath
to get him
the
to
camera.
Talk.
Like, it's your turn.
Yeah, but
I'm like, I don't want it to be my turn.
Like I said, this was fantastic. Thank you. If there's anything you want to plug, do so at this moment.
You know, there's nothing I want to plug. I've plugged everything on this broadcast. I've already told you, like, I've got East Bay Pro Wrestling coming up on the 14th of August. I've got another Wrestling Warzone WWZ show coming up on the 21st of August. Then it's off to St. Louis for NWA Empower, where I'm going to be managing Jamie Senegal in the first ever all women's NWA Invitational Gauntlet match, with the winner getting to face World Women's Champion Camille the next night at the NWA 73 anniversary pay-per-view.
Let's go.
It's going to be incredible. And I'm telling you right now, I can't spill the beans, but I already know every single name on that roster of talent for that show, including the contestants in the women's tag team tournament that's going to crown the first ever women's NWA tag team champions in more than 35 years. So some of the names that are participating in that event are huge, and some of the revelations relating to the tag team tournament are insane as well. So I just encourage people to tune into that. It's going to be unbelievable. It's going to be unbelievable.
Where's that going to be? Is that going to be on Fight?
Yeah,
it's going to be on Fight TV.
Awesome.
Yep.
Fight is what
broadcasting live on Fight TV. Oh, yeah. And I encourage people who are interested in both events, NWA 73 as well as Empower. They're back to back. There's a bundle. Get that bundle and save a bundle.
I like the bundles. I like bundles. I like the GCW bundles.
I like bundles too.
You're a bundle.
I am a bundle.
It's like the value meal of pro wrestling.
Neither of the graphics we have here have the date, but that's on August 28th, right?
28th and 29th.
Empower's the 28th. NWA 73 is on the 29th.
Nice.
Yep. All right. Well,
that was awesome, man.
Wherever you are in the world, whether it is morning, noon, or night, you have a great one. And peace and love to all of you. Bang!